years of rolling, this show has been host to many ambassadors, diplomats, analysts, commentators, and many senior government representatives. No matter who they are, each of our guests were given 24 minutes of in-depth analysis in relating issues involving Zimbabwe, Africa, and the world at large. Each of our guests were given the opportunity to explain the actions of their countries and organizations. Welcome to this special episode of 3 years of diplomatic encounter as we retrospect into 2016, bringing you issues that we covered in 2016. I'm Janita Hargovan and I am here with my colleague Sharon Karinda.
Yes, Janita, allow me to extend the seasoned greetings and compliments of the new year to our valued viewers. So in 2016, we covered a lot of issues on bilateral understanding, developmental programs, National Day celebration, as well as the activities done by different embassies in Zimbabwe. Although 2016 was a prosperous year, we however covered issues
In 3 years of rolling, this show has been host to many ambassadors, diplomats, analysts, commentators, and many senior government representatives. No matter who they are, each of our guests were given 24 minutes of in-depth analysis in relating issues involving Zimbabwe, Africa, and the world at large. Each of our guests were given the opportunity to explain the actions of their countries and organizations. Welcome to this special episode of 3 years of diplomatic encounter as we retrospect into 2016, bringing you issues that we covered in 2016. I'm Janita Hargovan and I am here with my colleague Sharon Karinda.
Yes, Janita, allow me to extend the seasoned greetings and compliments of the new year to our valued viewers. So in 2016, we covered a lot of issues on bilateral understanding, developmental programs, National Day celebration, as well as the activities done by different embassies in Zimbabwe. Although 2016 was a prosperous year, we however covered issues on terrors, wars, and conflicts.
To a satellite primary school in Bubi, Chwaile, towards the proper building of learning infrastructures. Pupils used to walk over 10 kilometers to a nearest school, after which they endured learning under makeshift infrastructure. The embassy also presented a grant to ADRA, Zimbabwe, to construct 2 classroom blocks equipped with water harvesting tanks at 10 schools in Gokwe North. An additional block of toilets equipped with hand washing facilities were also constructed. In Missouri, the government of Japan gave a grant of $89,000 for the construction of school blocks for children who previously used an old farmhouse as a classroom. This was welcomed by the community and government officials.
So this is something that's coming out as a result of our good relationships with the Japanese government. And I would like to thank His Excellency for facilitating such a good relationship with our friendly countries.
Japan also extended a bilateral grant assistance of $17 million to the government of Zimbabwe for the development of Nyakomba irrigation scheme, which comprises prime agricultural land in Manicaland. Water is drawn from the adjoining Gairezi River, which forms a border with Mozambique. The main components of the scheme are pump stations, reservoirs, irrigation and drainage canals and roads. The implementation was scheduled to begin November 2016 and is expected to be completed by 2019. Early 2016, the government of Japan extended a grant of $88,000 under the Japanese Grant Assistance for Grassroots Human Security Project, GGP, towards the project for improvement of facilities for medical services and maternal and child health in Hwange district, at Lukosi Rural Hospital and Milonga Clinic. The project was completed with the Lukosi Hospital and Milonga Clinic receiving significant improvements, including the construction of a maternal waiting home, the renovation of main hospital wards, and the construction of a toilet block.
Vanhu definitely vaveyavura vamwe vavekwenda mishizo 10 to 15 kilometers bija peclinic opa but kwafeno pamata jingumba eji kunavo varozunyamura kwava vulemu havuchipone kuzha vomirira zvavo viriyo pano mane vanochira aindizo vatitira zvinhu zvibhodho zvokuti hai chigava siviri chatutuka. I'm very much impressed about what these Japanese people have done.
Akuboka kasa kuma Japanese akataura rudo kunasu akatipa jingumba jokulara akatipa matoilet mabhodho takaveshingisa but zvisiri zvibhodho asi toboka ivo vakatipa jingumba jibhodho namatoilet mabhodho.
What is done in Matabele and North is virtually done for the whole country as well. But not only that, the Japanese embassy is assisting us here in Matabele and North in all sorts of areas, like for instance education as well. A few months ago we commissioned Malanda Secondary School in Cholocho, again assisted by the Japanese embassy. They also assisted us in the construction of classroom blocks and the Bohole Chile Primary School. So we're happy that the Japanese are here assisting us.
So those were some of the works done by Japan in Zimbabwe in 2016.
And it was a great work. You're watching the Diplomatic Encounter, where we are celebrating our 3rd anniversary of running this show. We are also going into 2016 retrospect, so do stay tuned in as we see you after the break.
Welcome to the second segment of the Diplomatic Encounter, where we're celebrating 3 years of running this show. I'm here with my co-presenter, Janita Hagoven, and we're giving you issues that took center stage in 2016. One of the most appreciated programs that we've hosted is the India in the Sunshine City Festival. It was action-packed from Bollywood dancing to singing. It was one of the projects that the Indian ambassador initiated, which enhanced people-to-people relations. Here is an interview our colleague Bianca had with the Indian ambassador to Zimbabwe.
So let's talk about the festival, a phenomenal one that it was. How did you see it?
The program was fantastic. It was well received and it was welcomed in city of Harare as was anticipated earlier.
How was the feedback from Zimbabwe?
Initially, you see that first show that was on 2nd of September when this Sufi Gospel project was done. Most of the participants in the first day was Indian community, but then on the second day you see a mixed group of people coming in. That was the most successful thing as far as I'm concerned, that the project is not meant for the Indian community but for the Zimbabwean as a whole. And as I always say, that we try to mainstream this festival.
Are we going to be seeing more of these festivals in the coming years? Is it going to be an annual thing?
This is going to stay on.
So Janita, you attended the Sunshine in the City Festival. How did it go? Tell us about it.
Oh, it was really exciting. It was wonderful. And the best part was seeing the fact that there were those from the Indian community and the local Zimbabweans. And there was a great response from both. Fantastic shows, the moves were wonderful, and viewers, here are some of the views.
Moving on, Australia is trying to enhance its relationship with Africa. In September, the country hosted the Africa-Australia Week, where 12 mine ministers attended this summit and looked on ways of collaboration, since Australia is one of the major investors in mining in Africa. Bianca talked to the Australian ambassador to Zimbabwe, Susan McCourt, on various issues.
Can you reflect on the relations that exist between your country, Australia, and Africa as a continent?
Thanks. That's a great question to start with. I think there's been a long relationship between Australia and the African continent, and of course Zimbabwe in particular. But one thing that is changing, I think, is that previously a lot of Australians thought about our relationship with Africa in kind of development space or humanitarian response. But I think we're really maturing in our outlook and now focusing on Africa as a partner for development, economic development, which will benefit Australia as well as African countries.
So that means you're going to be seeing more of economic collaborations between Australia and a lot of African countries.
Absolutely. So our focus to date in the economic space has been very heavily mining focused, and that's because Australia is itself a very successful mining country, and so we've been able to use our expertise in having successful collaboration in Africa.
What are some of the projects and operations that you've been on?
So we have a diverse range of things that we do at the embassy, which makes my job really exciting. We do have a development cooperation program, which has traditionally been focused on water and sanitation, and also providing support for smallhold farmers and really empowering them to develop economically and be self-sustaining, which is something that has been really terrific. We have a small grants program at the embassy, which enables us to support community projects, which aren't necessarily part of the broader big development projects, but are really able to make a big difference in the community, both in Harare, but also in particular in the rural areas. And of course, whenever there is a visiting sporting team, we're very happy to help at the embassy with any Australian teams that come through. We've supported performances at Haifa in recent years, and so there's a whole range of things that we do, as well as obviously hosting visitors from Australia who are interested in talking to the Zimbabwean government and others about what's going on here. So it's a very diverse role.
Ethiopia has been a friend to Zimbabwe through thick and thin. The ambassador has assured Zimbabwe that the friendship will continue and has encouraged that the development of trade be boosted as it has been continuing on a very small scale.
The two countries have maintained a close and cordial relation following Zimbabwe independence in 1980. This cordial and close relation has continued up to date, and the relation being cemented by Ethiopian Airlines, which has continued to link the two countries since April 1981. Even during the hard time of hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, Ethiopian Airlines didn't close doors when many of others running away because it couldn't abandon a valuable friend as Zimbabwe due to a temporary problem. But we have to admit that besides operation of Ethiopian Airlines, there have been very limited communication and business connection over the year, despite the huge potential that we have. To this effect, the embassy is doing its utmost to bridge this gap by linking the business of two countries through participation in Zimbabwe International Trade Fair, Sanganai Tourism Fair, Harare International Carnival in the last 3 years.
Great friends indeed. You're watching The Diplomatic Encounter, where we are giving you 2016 in retrospect. Diplomatic Encounter is proud to be celebrating 3 years of running its show. See you after the break.
Welcome to the third and final segment of the Diplomatic Encounter, where we're looking into 2016 retrospect.
Yes, and also celebrating the running of the show for 3 years. So let's look at Namibia. The relationship between Namibia and Zimbabwe has been a very good one, where the people-to-people relation has been increasing between the two countries. We spoke to the Namibian ambassador at one of the national housing conferences that was held late in 2016. She had the following to say.
Bilateral relation between Zimbabwe and Namibia is very sound, cordial. We have been friends since the days of the liberation struggle. We are friends and we will be friends for generations to come.
The ambassador also shared the deep cultural relation between Zimbabwe and Namibia.
There is so much interaction between Namibians and Zimbabweans. you know, we are having Air Namibia flying 4 times a week. So the flow of business delegations, individuals between Harare and Windhoek, it happens on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. On a cultural note, there are so many intermarriages. We are one people. So really, it is quite encouraging to see that our bond of friendship has been growing from strength to strength. And that is what the authorities are committed to.
So let's go to Sudan. Now, Sudan is one of the youngest countries in Africa, and it has become the limelight of the world. It was a country born on the aspirations of the people. But in turn, the people that fought together are actually fighting against each other. So our colleague Gibson Nikadzino had an interview with the South Sudanese ambassador, and this is what transpired.
December 15, 2013 was a very bad day for the people of South Sudan when the president fired the first vice president, who was instigating the rebellion according to the government.
He was fired in July by the president because he was criticizing the government. He was the first vice president. And that was looking like, how do you call it? Like shooting your foot with your own either gun or spear.
What was the disturbance to the unity of the people, these rebellions?
Well, it was very demoralizing when he made under-tree coup in 1991 in a place called Nasser. And that was the time when our refugees were even in Ethiopia. So they had to track back to the liberated areas of South Sudan. And during that coup, he killed a lot of some of the SPLA who were supporters of the mainstream. He killed a good number of people, over even 1,000.
Who are really supporting?
There are people with him internationally.
This is one other story that disappoints Africa. There should be some common ground of peace and stability obtained within Africa in our continent. You know, this sort of thing should not be happening in the 21st century.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's time when African leaders stand up to offer African solution on African problems. Now, this reminds me of that unprecedented move done by Morocco in refusing to accept Sahrawi as a sovereign state.
Anyways, Zimbabwe and Egypt are the only 2 African countries which hold 2 of the 7 wonders of the world, the pyramids and the mighty Victoria Falls. We spoke to the ambassador regards issues of tourism, trade and other issues relating to Africa.
We have to cooperate and enhance the African tourism because as you know, as I said, we have the pyramids, we have the mighty Victoria Falls, we have the safaris all over Africa. We have many beautiful places that we have to see. And as you know, the African Union inaugurated the African passport lately for the African presidents. We hope that this African passport will be for every African citizen. And of course, this will help a lot in enhancing the African tourism.
Just close to Egypt, Gibson talked to the Palestinian ambassador to Zimbabwe, who talked of the long conflicts that has been happening in the Middle East. Israel continues its aggression on the Palestinian towns.
Yes, definitely, Sharon. Another sad story. Let's have a look at the interview that took place.
What has the international community done so far about the plight of the Palestinians?
The international community supported the Palestinian plight for freedom and in respect to international law and international resolutions, UN resolutions. Where the international community failed is to make Israel comply to international law and to the UN resolutions. As for the negotiation, as I said earlier, The refugee question is one of the final status issues. The issue of Palestine is an issue of land and people. So you cannot address the issue of land and people without addressing the problem of the refugees.
Recently, the United Nations Security Council voted against Israel's continuation of building settlements on Palestinian-occupied territories. This could be a step towards peace. The question now remains is that will Palestine become a full member of state of the UN? Will Israel return all the Palestine territories? Time will tell. We will continue to keep you updated on some of these issues.
Sport plays a critical role in diplomacy, and an opportunity to speak to the Honorable Minister of Sport and Recreation, Makosini Hlongwane, and he commented on sport and diplomacy, in particular reference to the Mahatma Gandhi Run, which was initiated by the Indian Embassy.
There have been so many attempts at muscling Zimbabwe out of the ICC, especially the test playing nations. And India has stood on the side of Zimbabwe all the time. To that extent, India plays an important part of our cricket diplomacy framework. We're very happy that this is happening. So the event that is going on today, which is the fun run in honor or recognition or celebration or commemoration even of the United Nations Day of Nonviolence, which is the 2nd of October, he has brought sport, to anchor the whole process for the simple reason that sports does everything to represent peace. The training from sport is a university of life. You train tolerance of difference, you learn to appreciate competition, you learn to appreciate even losing, you learn to appreciate to win in dignity, you learn to engage with people that are different from you, you learn to do things as according to the rules.
We also caught up with the Dean of African Ambassador, DRC Ambassador to Zimbabwe, and this was his message to the people of Zimbabwe.
The people of Zimbabwe should be confident in themselves. This country has everything to be a great economic power. You should just be confident in yourself. President Mugabe has shown the way to get back your land. Work on your land, work on your mineral. The country is filthy rich. You don't need to be quarreling between yourselves. Foster your unity, and the struggle is still there in terms of economic development, and that struggle requires that we get united. We should forget our differences and be focused, like the Black American used to say, keep your eyes on the prize.
Now, Janita, you spent the whole year presenting on this program. What has been your experience? Share your journey.
Oh, it's been a fantastic one, Sharon. I mean, I've learned a lot. The ambassadors, meeting them, the diplomacy that happens between the different countries and Zimbabwe, the way we're growing in trade, the way development is taking place in Zimbabwe, learning about, what's going on in the remote areas and how there is so much hope and potential. It's really amazing and wonderful, Sharon. Mm-hmm. You've been here with me presenting this show today. I mean, what's your feeling?
Well, it was a very good experience. The fact that I've been able to partake in the different things that were happening, interviews with the different ambassadors of different countries, learning the activities that are happening in Zimbabwe. Now in 2017, what's your forecast on the economic activities that are happening in Zimbabwe?
Well, I think it's a very important thing for all of us, even our viewers included, to be very hopeful, to be very positive, and to know that the light now is on Africa, on our nation. And before, even though Africa was on the dark side, I think with the whole movement in media and the whole movement in people just becoming more aware of what's going on, it's time now for us to rise and shine. So let's just keep that positive note within us.
True that.
This is the Diplomatic Encounter, where we are celebrating the 3 years running of this show, and where we have also brought you the center stage issues that we covered in 2016.
In 2017, we'll go continental, giving you African news like never before. Join us next week.